along with fellow journalists Tim Turner and Michael Robinson, coming to you on a Tuesday, a great Tuesday, because I think we're about 15 hours before the big day tomorrow, where somebody got to leave Washington. He ain't got to go home, but he's going to have to get the hell out of there. So we're all excited about that, but we are honored tonight to have two guests here to talk with us. NBA legend Butch Beard and his teammate from the University of Louisville, Dave Gilbert, Reverend Dave Gilbert. How you gentlemen doing tonight?
We're doing great.
Doing well. Doing well.
I wanted to have you guys on because Butch, you made national news, international news the other day when you took on your alma mater, UN Dave's alma mater, and you told them you wanted to disassociate yourself from the university. One of the reasons you feel they haven't addressed issues of diversity, and they haven't honored great legends like Wes Unseld. And I know you and Dave were there at the beginning when Louisville first started to recruit Black athletes. What made you decide to speak out?
Well, you know, Ricky, I have been following the university for quite some time now. And the last 20 years, going through the Rick Pitino era and where they are right now, it's just, it's been so different. And when I say it's been so different, it's been different because of the fact that most of the money that is given to white guys. None is given to Black people. The kids that go there and generate the money do not have a role model for them to look up to. And so that prompted me to start thinking about writing a letter to the university. And it took me about 3 weeks to write it. I'm not that smart, okay? My wife helped me with it so it wouldn't look like I was an angry Black guy, okay?
Well, so Butch, doing that, you look back on it and you pretty much outlined the reasons why. But in Louisville, has anybody brought it up before now? Have people been rebuffed? Have there been Black candidates for jobs?
Woo! Well, this all started really in my mind when Rick had to step down. And Jerry Eves and I were pulling for Kenny Payne, who was an assistant coach up in Kentucky. Right. And you wouldn't believe some of the stuff that was said about, well, he's a wildcat. And we told him, idiots, he played at the University of Louisville. He works there now, but he's a Cardinal. And then it got around to the quote, the best quote of all now, he doesn't have head coaching experience. So before I let Reverend Gilbert talk a little bit, let's just think about that quote, because that quote we get all the time. And you just mentioned something, Ricky, before the start of the show. The guy in the White House who's leaving had no experience whatsoever and became president of the United States.
Right. It worked out pretty well, didn't it?
What's that?
That worked out pretty well, didn't it?
Oh yeah, that worked out real well for him, and this country. You understand? So that's the thing that they always say. Well, Kenny didn't have any head coaching experience, but how do you get head coaching experience unless somebody gives you a chance?
Yeah.
All right, so Butch, we know that the '80s was like a big boom boost for the Louisville with the interns of dunk during that era, and then of course, what about the time frame when Wade Houston was assistant coach there to get the UT job, and his son was set to come to Louisville, but they got him out of that where he could play for his father at UT. What about during that time frame? Was Wade a serious contender for possibly being the Louisville coach?
Well, if he was a serious contender for the job when Denny stepped down, don't you think they would have interviewed him?
He didn't even get an interview.
Just saying, okay?
He didn't even get an interview.
Not to my knowledge. Maybe Reverend Gilbert knows a little bit more than I do, but not to my
No,
knowledge.
he didn't get an interview.
Hey, Reverend Gilbert, you came
Yeah.
to Louisville 1963. You were one of the first black athletes on the basketball team. I think you were fourth. And meanwhile, in Lexington, Rupp wasn't having no parts of black athletes. What was it that made Louisville start to address the need to recruit black athletes?
Well, I think it was some pressure to bring in some black athletes, but at that time, there were a lot of schools that were going that way. And in 1962, Wade was the first black Wade Houston was first black to sign, and Eddie Whitehead and Sam Smith, they came in the year before, and they were forwards and centers, and I was the first black guard to sign in 63. And then West came in 64, Butch came in 65, and then the Louisville program, because of Butch and West primarily, took off. And the history, we're talking about Kentucky. Kentucky didn't interview or bring in an athlete until 67. And and the one that I know that they brought in, he didn't really play there. He ended up getting in trouble. And, but Louisville always had the reputation when I was there of being the school that recruited black athletes. But as Butch said earlier, it's now 50 years later, Kentucky has had a black coach. Louisville has never had one. And when you talk about experience, there's lots of black athletes, including Butch, who have coached at the NBA level, who's coached at the collegiate level. Wade Houston has coached at the collegiate level. There are tons of them, but somehow they don't ever seem to be in the interviewing stage, especially when it gets down to seriously, because I'm not sure the current basketball coach, I know he came from Xavier, but he was a young fellow, so I don't know how much prior experience he has, but that's one of the issues when it comes to blacks in every position is this thing about lack of experience. He's a good person, but we really need to have more experience. You have to have
people of color.
But then when you have people like Butch, who didn't come in, didn't get an interview for when Patino came in, Wade, who didn't get an interview for it, who had all had coaching experience, Wade at the college level and Butch both at the NBA level and at the college level. Butch coached Howard University and Morgan State.
And to our viewers out there, Butch was NBA All-Star, NBA champion, coached the New Jersey Nets, and 1965, Mr. Basketball. Were you the first black Mr. Basketball in Kentucky?
No. West was in 64, and I followed in 65.
Wow.
Now, do they have any African American, any people of color in the power structure in Louisville that could influence any of these decisions, or is it?
Tim, no.
So anybody's gonna put anything in anybody's ear then.
They have a few blacks in the community that they talk to, I guess, about certain things, but I don't know if they are, if they are in the decision-making process. And so therefore, it's just, listen, I had a conversation with Dr. Beneputi, and I told her that Louisville, the University of Louisville for Louisville, is a beacon of light. And if the beacon of light is corrupt, then the city is corrupt. I said, therefore, that's the reason why we ended up with what happened to Breonna Taylor. Not the fact that she got shot. It was the fact the way she died and what happened after. So if the university doesn't clean up its act, the city is never going to be clean itself. And that's what I'm working toward you know, that was part of the letter to get them to understand that. Hopefully, I don't know yet. Hopefully.
Mike,
All right, so Butch, and I actually remember when you were coaching the Nets. I was actually covering the Bucks at the time, so I had a chance to interact with you back then. But being that you've coached these two black colleges in the DMV, you see now that this big push, you know, these ex-basketball players are now coaching these HBCUs, and you were pretty much one of the forefathers of doing it. So how do you feel about now this big push for athletes and coaches go to these HBCUs now?
Well, I would love for it to happen. First of all, a lot of people don't know, you know, I took Howard to the NC2A tournament in 1992. Okay.
Right.
That's the reason why I got the job, okay, with the New Jersey Nets. But it took Coach Thompson to get me to Howard. Okay. I had, after we went to the NC2A tournament, I had an opportunity to do what has happened at Howard now. I had an opportunity to get Rasheed Wallace. I was one of 5 people that were in the house in Philadelphia. The only problem is I couldn't get him to take a visit, because if he had taken a visit, he wasn't going to leave Washington, D.C. unless he signed with me. You understand? But I was trying to tell him that if you come to Howard, you will start to turn college basketball like never before, because I will be able to go out and get, you know, more great high school players. And that way, the NC2A will look at HBCUs entirely different.
yeah, that's
But,
right.
but Dave, I got a question for you. Like, with a situation with Louisville where they seemingly don't have an affinity for black people in the power structure, would you ever tell a recruit, go to a HBCU or go somewhere else?
Was that for me?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I did it back when I was a student at U of L.
He didn't want anybody to take his playing time. That's the reason why he said don't come here.
No, there were a couple of players who came in who were ranked among the better athletes in the nation. And I remember one particular one who came in, and he wanted to go to Louisville. And Butch was aware of the situation, because Butch was the one who was supposed to take him around, but I knew of him because he was from Dayton. And it ended up that we spent the entire weekend together and talked. And at that point, I told him Louisville wasn't ready for his kind of style of play. And he ended up going to Michigan. But today I would.
That wasn't Kansas, was it? Was it
No.
Kansas?
No.
Okay.
No.
Coach, what's the secret? It's over now. Statute of limitations is up.
You can tell him, Dave, who it was.
Go ahead, Butch.
That was Rudy Benjamin. That was Rudy Benjamin.
Rudy Benjamin. Rudy Benjamin. That's right.
And we had an opportunity to get Curtis Perry. I'm sorry, Perry Wallace, who integrated the SEC down in Vanderbilt. And I did take him around. I begged him to come to U of L, because I thought with him we had a chance to at least compete against UCLA, but he chose to stay close to home because he was a Tennessee kid. But what they did, and Dave just told you the way the University of Louisville operated in the 60s, they recruited 3 black kids at first, then 1 black kid, 1 black kid, 1 black kid. Okay? So that way, it was more or less a way of trying to make sure that they controlled, okay, us at that particular time. And they did a hell of a good job, to be honest with you.
And you know, Butch, I'm a personal friend of Perry, who unfortunately passed away.
Yes.
I'm in Nashville, and our families were friends. And I know in retrospect, I bet he wished he would have come to Louisville because I don't know if you ever read his book, Strong
Yes.
on His Side. I mean, he went through hell at Vandy. He was the only guy there. Well, actually, there was another guy there, Worrell Smith, who actually went back to New York. So it was not a good experience for him at Vandy. How would you guys rate your experiences at Louisville at that time? I mean, you had the world champ. That's his hometown. I don't know if there's ever any action with the great Muhammad.
Well, you remember that Ali threw his Olympic medal
into the river,
in the Ohio River,
Yeah.
because of this segregation and so forth in Louisville. There's a group of us who get together after Wes's passing. We get together for about an hour and a half every week, Butch and I and Eddie Wade, my brother who's a football player, he's on the call. And we talk about some of the things that happened at U of L back when we were there. We've had experience, at least I had, I know, because I'm a few years older than Butch, where we played in New Orleans, and they didn't want us to stay in the same hotel as the white players. You remember 1965 when they had the whole AFL All-Star game. Louisville played in the Sugar Bowl that year.
Yeah.
And we went through the exact same experiences that they had. And we had a head coach who had, and what Butch is saying, at least I interpret what Butch is saying, we had coaches that didn't understand, have a clue about what the needs of that we had were. We would get jokes. They would not take you seriously. We were not allowed to we ended up staying in the hotel, but they wanted to put all three of us in a regular room and have one with a cot, and we were down there to play in the Sugar Bowl basketball tournament. The coaches didn't do that. We ended up getting a suite, but we ended up having. I remember going down to the dinner they had after the tournament. Let me say it this way: Wade Houston got hurt that game. He sprained his ankle really bad, and they stood up and gave an ovation when they rolled the cot out to take him off the court.
Wow.
Wade and I were not starting at that time. Wade was a junior. I was a sophomore. When Hickman put us in the game, the entire stadium at Tulane Stadium started chanting, "Get them niggas out of here." And they ended up starting to throw pennies, rows of pennies on the court and so forth. They had to stop the game for about 20 minutes. So that was part of the stuff. I remember hearing about, I never stood still during the national anthem. That was my little protest. I always did the Ollie shuffle. And it all started because I heard about Clem Haskins when he was down at Western would have to stand for the national anthem, and then they would play the song Dixie. That irked me for some reason, and I had to react. And so as we went through those years, we had many things. I mean, the year I came into Louisville was probably the most. It was 1963. Medgar Evers was killed in 63. You had Kennedy killed in 63. You had the March on Washington in 63. You had the bombing of the church in Birmingham in 63. And you had black people all over the country starting to rise up. And you had the reaction of white people there who were cheering for you during a game, but were opposed to you being involved with them at any other point.
Wow.
If what I'm saying is
Well, and Butch, hearing that, and you probably went through that as well, to have to come all the way back to 2021 and address your university on issues of diversity has to be frustrating, to say the least.
Well, it is, Ricky, very frustrating. It's frustrating because of the fact that when Wes Unseld walked on the campus, before he got there, University of Louisville was a regional power. In Cincinnati, Cincinnati, St. Louis, Indianapolis. When Wes Unseld stepped on the campus, it became a national power because of who he was. Now, I mess with Dave all the time. I say, Lone Ranger has to have Tonto, okay? So when Tonto followed, which was me, because they weren't expecting me, because I'm from a little place in Kentucky of 1,400 people, okay? It's a dot on the map, and it's still a dot now, okay? So they weren't expecting me to be as good as I was, but Wes needed me and I needed Wes in order for them to be good at that particular time, along with Dave. And we were number 2 in the nation when I was a varsity. When I was a sophomore, Wes was a junior and Dave was a senior. We were number 2 behind UCLA all year long, okay? That's how good we were. But they refused to acknowledge what Wes brought to the university. And that's the reason why I'm eating them up right now.
Well, that's what I want to ask. Is there any bad blood? Was there any bad blood between Wes after he left Louisville over the intervening years? What's the rationale for them not honoring him the way they should?
Wes is Wes. Wes is very humble. Wes is, God bless him, he's probably looking down on me right now, and he's trying to figure out a way to beat my thighs. We used to wrestle in the room because I roomed with him for 3 years, okay? And I try to wrestle that big joker, and every time, I got beat up every night, every time I tried to do it, okay? So, but
and I ruined Wes the years that Butch didn't room with him.
Okay. Well, Dave, Butch said he was Tonto. So what did that make you to the Lone Ranger?
I am the Lone Ranger.
Okay.
Let me get everybody caught up, guys. You're watching the African American Athlete live stream. I'm Ricky Hampton, along with fellow journalists Tim Turner, Michael Robinson. We're joined by NBA legend and University of Louisville legend Butch Beard and Dave Gilbert. There's Ryan May. Dave, I want to go to Mike, but I want to just show this right quick. Let me see if I can. Dave, I don't know if you can see this, but Butch will tell you about it. I had to get this out here just for you. That's Dave going to the hoop there. Left hand, what is that, a left hand floater you call that, Butch?
Yeah, and you know what, Dave, you got some hops here, man.
Oh man, you knew I had some hops.
Yeah, but your knees are gone, man. You shot. You done. Hey, this. Hey, Dave, going to your right and putting up something left-handed, and actually you jumped too high for the defense, so nobody blocked it. I'm sure. I'm upset. Yeah. Now. I wished I was playing against you in high school.
No, you don't.
I know that.
No, you don't.
Go ahead, Mike.
All right, Butch, we're talking about how Louisville's not showing the proper respect for Wes, but what about when you were at Morgan State? Were they showing respect for someone like Marvin Webster? And what about Howard? Did they show respect to their legendary players?
No, it's a different story. Okay, Michael. Okay. To be honest with you, we're only talking about the University of Louisville.
Okay.
All the big power schools in America do not give justice to their black athletes. Okay. The historical black schools don't the way that they should. I worked at 2 historical schools, okay, black schools. I retired Marvin Webster's number at Morgan. because I wanted to see some tradition on a daily basis when I had recruits to come in. Now the kids may not have known who Marvin Webster was, but I explained to them who the human eraser was because I played with him in New York. Okay.
Right.
And at Howard, Larry Spriggs, who played there and also with the Lakers, was probably A.B. Williamson's most prized player when A.B. was there before I got there. And so, you know, I wish that the historical Black schools would understand what they've had and let the kids know about it. So that's another angle to what we're talking about right now, Michael. It really is. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I got a great comment here from our Facebook live stream viewers. Kenan Jones asked, how tough was it for you guys to focus in that environment back in Louisville during those times?
Well, I'm going to say for me, I mess with Dave a lot, but I looked up to Dave and what he had gone through, and he was older than me. So he had more experiences at the University of Louisville. So I piggybacked off of what he had gone through in order for me to get through. All I know is that we had about 15 Black athletes on campus. I'm telling you, that's all we had in football and basketball. And to me, it was all about, let us try to get our degree and get the heck out of here.
So I was going to ask about that in that regard. What did your white teammates do in a situation in New Orleans? What did they do? What did they do when they see incidents of racism?
Pretty much what white teammates do today. They did nothing but stand around. We happened to have an assistant freshman basketball coach who was also on the trip. His name was Harold Adams. When Louisville first started bringing blacks in, Harold became sort of the liaison with all of them, me, Wade, Sam, Eddie, those who were the first to come in. And usually when we had a problem or something, we would talk to Harold about it. And he was sort of like the liaison between us and the other coaches. But we didn't see, after practice, we seldom saw a coach. We went through lots of, when I went to University of Louisville, there were a lot of people who did not want to see blacks in college, period. I told the group a week ago that I went to, we had to take matriculation examinations, and I scored 93rd percentile in mathematics, 88th percentile in natural sciences, but I only scored a 7th percentile in English. And they gave me a white advisor who told me 3 days after I was there, you'll never graduate from this university because you obviously cannot read or write. And so now you have that experience. I was 17 when I went to school. I was young. Nobody in my family had ever gone. No, it was nobody there to give you any guidance at all. And then you go there your third day of school when they're giving your readouts on your scores, and they tell you that you could not possibly graduate from this man's school. And so what I did is I never went to an advisor again. That's the last time I ever went to an advisor until I was in graduate school. And my brother was a football player. He came in with Butch's class, and I did all of his arranging for his classes. And so,
did you ever see that advisor again? Did you ever see that advisor later in life, Dane?
Not until it was time to graduate, and I took the announcement over and put it on his desk because he was, that was it. Because I didn't really see him again ever. But those are the kinds of things that you have to overcome, because you see what don't kill you will make you stronger.
Right.
And from those experiences, I have 10 grandsons. I have 2 grandsons. One was the offensive player of the year in football in Ohio. We just finished Kentucky State as a quarterback. I got another one who is at Youngstown State now. I got another one who is at Concordia in Michigan. And I got another grandson. He was the defensive player of the year. So all of those things that happened to me at Louisville benefited my grandkids and my kids, because all of my children now have master's degrees, all of them, and my oldest granddaughter has her doctorate, and she just graduated from Bellarmine, which is also in Louisville, and then went on and got her master's and doctorate, and she just turned 28.
Awesome.
And she was the one to help me out tonight.
I mean, that's
my question for you two would be, what was it like when you guys saw what happened down at Texas Western in '66? When you guys been up to Louisville?
Well,
Can I start first, Butch, on that one?
yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Okay. We were, that was my junior year. And the night of that game, I knew nothing about Texas Western. And the night of that game, they were playing Kentucky. That week, Adolph Rupp had made a statement. I can't quote it exactly, but it was, in essence, black players cannot beat white players because they don't perform under pressure and they play showboat and all of those things. So when that game started, I was at a party with UK black students. I was the only person there who was from U of L, and they, of course, were rooting for their school. I didn't like Kentucky anyway, and so it ended up that I said to myself, if Texas Western has one black player, I'm going to root for them. Well, they had 5. And then they got the camera to the bench, and I looked over there, and I only saw 2 white boys. And I'm saying, this is a black team. And then when they started that game, the first points of that game were scored by Neville Shedd, who dunked on Pat Riley. Next play was Dave Lattin dunked on Thad Jarris. And then Bobby Joe Hill stole the ball from Larry Connolly twice in a row, and they went up. And they never relinquished that lead. They played, I don't think I have ever been as proud of black people playing anything as I was that night. And I mean, I had never met any of them. To this day, I've never met any of them. But the mere fact, the greatest memory I have of that game is there's a shot that was in Sports Illustrated of all of Kentucky's teams: Lori Dampier, Pat Riley, Thad Jarris, Larry Connolly, and then there's Adolph Rupp is sitting at the head of it, and it shoots it down it's from the floor angle, and it is they're all stunned. They're so stunned that you can look in all of their faces and say, this was not supposed to happen. And that game changed all of basketball.
Yes.
I know that picture. Hey,
Yes.
hey guys, I need to bring in my next guest, another great journalist, Leland Stein, who's about to cover his 29th Super Bowl before we let you guys go. Leland, welcome, brother. But Butch, I did want to get you guys out of here. I wanted to ask you a question a little bit about today's game. How do you like the NBA today from the league you played in and coached in?
Ricky, I really don't like it. I don't like it. I know, Michael, I guess you still cover it. I see you're out in the Bay Area, right?
Yeah.
So here's what has happened to the game. Being a member of the Golden State Warriors that won the championship in 75, the Warriors had our group back out there on the 25th anniversary. I'll never forget, I walked into the locker room and I sat down next to Steph. I said, you know, Steph, you and Clay are going to change this game like never before. I said, every shot you shoot is a bad shot. And kids are going to try to emulate what you do. The problem is you have a skill. You two can really shoot. Now, most of these damn kids can't shoot a lick, okay? So now what we see, and it's hard for me to watch. Now what we see, everybody shooting threes, big man, 95 feet from the hoop, okay? And no sense of being 6'10" anymore because nobody can post up. You can't even if he does post up, don't know how to pass the ball down into the post. It's an ugly thing to watch. And I tell you, I talk to a lot of my friends, a lot of, ex-pro players, and the first thing we all say is, can't watch 4 quarters. Watch a couple quarters and turn it away. It's just so hard to watch this dribble, and shoot. See, guys, what you have is, and they said it's a hit or miss league, okay? Well, if you hit it, it looks great. When you don't hit it, they don't even have something else to go to. They don't post up anybody. They keep shooting the threes. They can have a break. They'll run over in the corner, on 3-on-2 like in the old days, and they could score to kind of change things. No, they run over in the corner and shoot that ball in the corner, that 3 shot in the corner because that's the easiest one. It's an ugly thing to watch. It really is. I look at Wiseman. I think Wiseman can be a hell of a pro. Right. But if the Golden State Warriors are telling him, you grab a defensive rebound and you lead the break, ain't nothing good going to happen out of that in his career as the season goes along.
And so did Steph at any point say, can somebody get this man away from my locker?
No, because you know what? Here's the thing. Steph, I love him. He had a little respect for me because being a champion, okay. He just looked at me and I said, if I played against you, yeah, you probably scored 60 points. But I tell you what, you wouldn't play the next night because all 6 fouls, they would be the hardest fouls you've ever received in your life.
That's what I love hearing that. I love hearing that.
That's old school.
Exactly.
That was one of your calling cards on the defensive end now.
No question. I beat you. Hey, if the official, I probably fouled about 4 out of the ones that they didn't call. So I did all right, Walt Frazier will tell you, and he was my roommate and my teammate when I got traded to the Knicks. He said, I'm so glad they have you here because every time I played against you, you beat the hell out of me at least most of the night. And I tried. Trust me.
Hey, Bush, can you explain it to some of these youngsters out here how good Jamal Wilkes was as a rookie?
What? Now, hey, Michael, if you ever see him again, just call him, just go up and say, smooth as silk, twice as refreshing as goat's milk. Now, I'm the one who used to say that to him because his game was so unorthodox that you didn't think he knew what he was doing. So he helped us win a championship in 75 by his great play and being rookie of the year. Now, here's the other thing. We talk about Magic, right? His rookie year in Philadelphia, and he had the big game, and, he was all over. Jamal only scored 36 points, and nobody even says anything about it. Okay? That's how
he didn't jump center.
That's the only difference.
Only difference.
And so let me just get our viewers caught up. We're joined by the great columnist Leland Stein, about to cover his 29th Super Bowl in a few weeks. And Butch and Dave, I hope you guys will come back and visit with it. And Butch, what do you guys hope will come out of this decision to take the school on?
Well, I hope that I'll be able, or we'll be able as a group, to sit down with them and get them to understand our feelings and what we're looking for, okay? We're looking for recognition. We're looking, right now, as we speak, there is a dorm at the University of Louisville in Johnny Unitas's name. Johnny U had a good career at Louisville, but you only know him as a Baltimore coach.
Right.
Denny Crum has the court named after him at Louisville. And I'd be damned if they're not building another dorm in Denny Crum's name. So, you know what?
Right.
You see what you see where I'm coming from?
You mean there's no table in the cafeteria for Patino?
They still. I'm gonna leave that alone.
This is Mitch McConnell's state, though. So you can't freak out too much
Mitch
about Kentucky.
Hey, Dave, was Mitch McConnell in your class or Charlie's class?
Was it really?
Oh no, he was a freshman when I was a freshman. He was a senior, and when Cousy and all them came in, he was a junior when they were freshmen.
Wow.
So you
know what? Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
He hadn't changed though.
No.
Hey, Butch, I was going to ask you, what about Daryl Griffith? Does he get any love? Daryl Griffith, Dr. Duncanstein?
Well, not right now. Daryl is back in the decent graces of the university.
Okay.
He's had some financial problems, so they have propped him up. And so, see, that's what the thing that they're probably, pardon my French, pissed off at me about. See, I don't ask. Not that I'm rich. I'm okay. Okay. I live a good lifestyle. Okay.
Right.
So I don't have to ask them for anything. So I know when I do have an opportunity to sit down with them, they're going to say, you see what we did for Daryl? And I know what they've done for him, but that's not going to cut the cake for me. Okay. That's not.
Hey, Leland, did you have a question for Dave or Bush before they left us?
No, before I was laughing a little bit about you talking about the NBA unwatchable because it's just not fair. Because when you watch George Mikan, everything must change. It changed from him to Wilton Bill, and it changed from them to Magic and them, and then it changed to Jordan and Kobe, and it's changing now. So it is what it is. It's a good game to me. I like it. I've seen it from the beginning.
Yeah,
Will is my favorite player. If everybody talk about GOATs, it's gonna be Will, Big O. I mean, we just argued about this today, and but the game is good, man. You know what Jerry West said to me? It's the last thing before I let you go. He said we were talking to him down there in L.A. and he was the only honest guy I ever seen. Because they all the reporters run on him talking about, oh, look at these guys. They ain't nowhere good as they used to be. They horrible. Jerry said, look, you see Kobe over there? He's faster, bigger, stronger than I ever was. No, game's better. That's what he said.
There are certain parts of the game physically, yes, it's better. Okay, they run faster, jump higher. Fundamentally, they don't have the fundamentals.
Defensively, they play better too. Howard Comines. Look, I had Howard Comines and Chris Ford. Now, come on.
I didn't say they were great. Okay,
but that's who played back then.
What? See, but you no. I'm not trying to convert you.
No, I know. I'm with you, brother.
I'm just telling you. In the pro game is built off of matchups, mismatches.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
When you have a mismatch, you go to that advantage. You have a high pick and roll at the top of the doggone circle, and you have the big set the pick, and he rolls and they switch, and there's a little guy down inside. When I played you worked it, got it down inside, and you punished. Okay. Here you got the guy with the ball dribbling for 55 seconds. Okay. Now let me see. If I can get this 3 off, I'll get it off. If I can't, I'll throw it to somebody else who's going to shoot the 3. That's ugly when it doesn't.
Well, no, I agree.
Well, the
I
one
agree.
that gets me, guys, the one that gets me, he is right at the bucket.
Kicks it to the corner.
To the corner.
And that's all analytics. See, I was in Chicago for the pre-draft camp 2 years ago. Okay. And I walked in, the first thing most of the guys in the NBA said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm not here looking for a job. I got paid." Half the gym there is looking for a job. The other half has a job. Okay.
Right.
But I was setting up in the stands. Little boys are sitting there with the damn computers. Okay. They were shooting and they're putting all this stuff down in the computer. And you know what I said? I know that you're doing a good job trying to figure out if that cat can shoot the ball in the corner or he can shoot it at the top of the circle. But do you know whether or not he has the heart to win a damn game down the stretch? Does that computer tell you that? Because if that computer can tell you that, then I'm for what's going on right now. Okay?
Yeah.
But they'll give you, Leland, they'll give you all kind of stats. But they can't tell what goes on in that heart.
I completely agree with you. You know, look, I was a 5'9" football player.
I hear you.
So you talk about analytics. I was off the chart. Hey, wait a minute, but you know, I get it. You can't measure heart. Any good coaches should know that if you're really trying to build a team.
Tell that to Mike D'Antoni down in Houston, how he had an opportunity to beat Golden State 2 years in a row and let James Harden them continue to shoot 3 after 3 after 3. Now I'll tell you what,
Mike's
if he
been
was
saying
smart,
that for 2
he would have put no, seriously, he would have put Harden on the block, okay, and see if they would come and get him instead of the way they were getting their threes on a double team where it was inside out instead of going outside in.
But you know, you got to dance with the girl that brought you there. They won like that. They came close. If they'd have won, then it'd be a moot point. Well, I mean, they didn't win, okay, but
there you go.
They was knocking on the door.
Okay,
I said it was the
put
best.
an asterisk by one of those. Chris Paul doesn't blow out his leg.
Well, yeah, there's a couple things went wrong for them.
Yeah.
Right. But James had a chance to redeem that situation and totally collapsed. The whole team shot 0 for 50.
But that's him, not necessarily.
No, but that's the style.
Scheme
but that's
of what they was doing.
But that's the style of play. That's what they
you
want.
gotta live or die with it. Yeah,
they want to continue to shoot the threes, and the two guys out there with Michael they started that mess. Those two guys, they have a skill. I watch them play. They can shoot. Okay, when they shoot, it's like shooting a layup from 50 feet. Everybody else is firing it up there.
We had our friend Ray Scott, former NBA player, first black to win the NBA Coach of the Year. Ray said they were the two best shooters he's ever seen.
Yes.
Who?
In 50 years of basketball.
Who?
Steph and Clay.
Oh, yeah.
The two best. And I'm going to put a bow on this. Michael Baldwin checks in to say, the athletes are better, but the game sucks.
Hey, that's our front, brother. Yo, all right, Mike.
I just want to say one thing. When we were playing, there was no 3. If they had a 3 back in 1963 to 67, Butch wouldn't have made All-American.
You got that right. I'm 15 feet on in. You're right. I'm 15 feet on in.
Hey, David Butch, I want you guys keep us abreast of what's going on, and please come back and visit with us. We have this forum. We got our viewers all over the country watching, and they love to hear what finally becomes of this thing in Louisville.
I would definitely keep you guys abreast. Okay, I really will. Okay,
appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, and I'd love to come back.
All right, thank you, guys.
Okay, guys.
Peace, brothers.
Thank you.
NBA legend Butch Ben.
Oh,
His
yeah.
teammate in Louisville, Dave Gilbert, checking in with us on the African American Athlete.com. And we're joined by the great writer, Leland Stein, as we take this thing on home. I mean, we really stand on those guys' shoulders, man.
Oh yes.
But them coming through, all the athletes we see today,
Hey,
the courage that they have to persevere through those times, and to speak out now, because like Butch said, I don't need nothing from Louisville. I'm gonna tell them what is on my mind.
right. Hey, I definitely have something to say to Leland.
What, man?
How about that
What's up,
LeBron?
dude?
How about the LeBron James?
Oh God!
I remember you were talking big trash.
I told you,
last year?
you just wouldn't give it. But I appreciate the acquiescence. But yeah, LeBron's a hell of a player, isn't he? What can you say?
That's what I was saying. But
wait a minute, hold on, you got me mixed up with somebody.
No, you were going on the Kobe thing. You were all on the Kobe thing, and I said LeBron is a better player. And then you went all, and then I was talking about how Magic was the best Laker. We're going back and forth with that. And then I said LeBron's gonna win a championship out there.
The best Laker to me would
Kareem is the best Laker ever.
I got Magic.
So
I got Magic.
Kareem's the best player, but Kobe is the best Laker.
Okay. I got Magic as the best Laker.
Well, Magic rejuvenated the franchise. Not that it was ever really down. I mean, you go from Jerry West and Wilt Baylor for a little long, then you get Magic. Now, come on.
Right.
So yeah.
When Kareem got there in '75, they were okay. Remember, Seattle was the team of the West.
Kobe never had the team Magic had. I mean, Magic had Kareem, number one.
He had Shaq. Shaq was the most dominating force in the whole world during that time.
But he imploded.
Oh, Shaq imploded.
Kobe imploded. Who shot those air balls? Who shot those 3 air balls?
Oh my God! Wait! That's his rookie year. Now stop it. Now, I don't know what you're doing with this Kobe hate, but
I
don't hate on. That's like I'm not, especially now. The guy's passed away.
Great players.
There you go.
But give me any of those guys on Detroit's roster. Any of those guys.
But just Rick, stop Mike for a minute. Just this one thing. Look, Magic had Kareem, Michael Cooper,
Worthy,
Scott,
Worthy,
Michael Thompson, Spencer Haywood. I mean, McAdoo. You can almost not name anybody Kobe had.
Got there though. What did they win before Magic got there?
To compare.
What
did they win before Magic got there?
Yeah.
What did the Lakers win before Magic got there? That's what you got to look at.
He was the catalyst.
Actually, the only one. Nothing.
Okay, I'll settle this and we'll go to another sport because Leland, I need you to answer a question for me, please, sir.
Okay.
There was a Super Bowl played in Houston a couple of years ago, and I'm talking to you from Atlanta.
Okay.
So did they give the Super Bowl to the Patriots?
They never give away anything. They lost it, man. They lost it. I mean, they did a couple of dumb moves.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
But that play by the linebacker, can't remember his name right now, that forced that fumble was crucial. That wasn't a giveaway. They tried to pass it, he fumbled it, they recovered, scored, boom, they scored again. But yeah, that defensive play changed the game. No doubt about it.
Okay.
Well, Atlanta wasn't ready for prime time, man. They had the lead, and they folded the tip.
See, I didn't need the embellishment and hurting my feelings.
Seattle gave it away.
Seattle didn't give it away. I'm over thinking, here we go. Give it the beast mode. The game is over, baby.
I agree. One of the biggest blunders of all time, Super Bowl history, right?
Right.
That and Passard checking on New York.
Like that. Oh, no doubt about it.
So this weekend, who do you have going to the Super Bowl?
Oh, man. It's hard to go against Brady, right? I mean, because...
Well, I'll be doing that.
Well, I'm just saying it's hard to go against him, but you have to kind of go with Rodgers, of course, right? He's at home.
At home.
And they're playing good, and they had a major game that they won. Of course, Kansas City, Buffalo's riding the wave, but their lollipop is about to melt now. They're done.
they were talking to somebody in Kansas City today, and they were saying that it wasn't so much a concussion as it was a nerve issue with Pat Mahomes, and he'll be good to go. He'll probably be back in practice tomorrow. And I don't think that Buffalo's got anything for him.
No, even if it was serious, do you think they would really tell it? And Patrick is so, he's a football player. I mean, he'd take a shot and do anything he could to go play that game. So you might not really know the truth.
You know that's what they did in that tent with that big toe. You know they did that Sunday.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. So, I'm sorry, Rick.
Let me ask you that. I want to ask you about the coaching situation throughout the league.
Okay.
And again, it seems like Black coaching candidates are missing out.
Yeah, I think, what was I reading somewhere? They had 7 initial openings, right?
There's 2 left, Philly and Houston.
Yeah, but.
And the quarterbacks for both of those are people that probably suit Ricky Bieniemy. But I keep hearing things. I heard something yesterday that I hadn't heard through this whole process. That he has been Eric Bieniemy.
Okay, what was that?
That Bieniemy goes into these interviews very pompous, and that he's a bad interview.
Well, don't they say that about every Black coach for the most part? But look, see, you got to look at your audience. If you were the general manager, or whoever that was interviewing, you kind of feel more comfortable with people that look like you, don't you? So, sometimes I don't think it's institutional. I mean, just racism or the vitriol aspect, but it's just institutional, and they're getting people that they're more comfortable with.
Which is why I wanted to know
how we gonna break that. I don't know.
The Falcons just hired a brother as a GM, and I was hoping he'd be in before they hired a coach. Yeah. They did the other way around.
It gives me an example. Like a friend of mine called me the other day. He was like, "Wow, they got my boy Chad Henne from Michigan. Right. He's still playing, right? I thought he would go. He's been in the league about 14 years. I don't know." He said, "What Chad Henne doing still in the league and Kaepernick's not?" Well, the answer is harsh, but it's simple. If you got a guy from Michigan that don't never say nothing, do nothing, then you got a loud brother that's gonna bring the bacon.
Well, and I don't think he's that. I don't think he was loud. In fact,
well, no, I'm saying that wrong now. I'm just using it as an adjective, not necessarily metaphorically. He wasn't loud. Please, I didn't mean
also more than anything else. This guy Chad, he didn't make no waves. It's like Matt Schaub just retired from the Falcons. Dude carried a clipboard for 5 years. Maybe took 3 snaps, pulling down $6 million a year.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Leland, our boy Rodney Peete, who started here in Detroit. 16 Rodney plays.
He one of the few. Him and Batch.
And married a Hollywood star.
Yeah, him and Batch are the only ones I can think of.
Yeah,
they have made it as backup quarterback.
But you know what about Philly though? You know what about Philly though is, let's not forget, they had a Black coach of the year with Ray Rhodes. But unfortunately, Ray Rhodes got jerked around in Green Bay 1 year, and he was gone.
Yeah,
he had that whole quintet. I mean, triples.
Well, the same thing with Lovey. Lovey didn't succeed at Illinois like we hoped he would have, but he was excellent in Chicago. He took them to the Super Bowl, and they lost.
Exactly.
Then 1 year, 2 years later, he's fired. With a 9-7 record.
No, it was 10-6. It was 10-6.
10-6.
Oh, 10-6. Okay.
He got fired. So, I mean, clearly, I guess we're just dealing with what we've always dealt with in this country as Black men, as the Black community.
That's right. And it seems to not stop. And I guess the events recently has proven that what was somewhat dormant was always there. And so I guess it makes it easier to see, like somebody sent me this thing with Kaepernick kneeling, and they said, which one of these pictures are un-American? And Kaepernick's kneeling. They got people with nooses and Confederate flags. And you look at it, and the hypocrisy is stunning for Black people that grew up in the African-American community. It's just,
Do you ever look at the Fritz Pollard Society?
Oh, I've been to a lot of their meetings when they first started. Yeah, of course.
I mean, are those guys, I mean, what more can they do except to try to prepare guys for this, and then have the other guys say, you know, where we write the checks, you know?
It's one of those things like which allowed Trump to elevate himself is the free speech. And how do you stop it? And you know, if you stop free speech, and then the Democrats lose power, then the Republicans have, then ain't no telling what would happen. So how do you put the lid on it? But then again, untruths, you know, is crazy. So I don't know,
what we have to do, I mean, we're kind of seeing what
it's like that
really needs to
sports, the
happen.
untruths.
Well, what I'm saying, what we're really seeing that needs to happen in athletics is taking place at Jackson State University with their football program, where Deion Sanders, you know, the three of us are HBCU grads. I know you're a Michigan State grad, but you know, I'm
all my kids went to HBCUs. All right, so
there you go.
all three.
But what I'm saying, he's bringing people to an institution where they are going to be nurtured and have an opportunity to leave there and maybe come back and coach that day. Whomever, University of Tennessee, and they're looking for a new coach now, I guarantee you it's not going to be a brother in Knoxville.
No. You know, when they brought me in there to the BCA black coaches.
It will not be a brother in Knoxville coaching that football team.
I believe it. It's going to be, I think the idea is, you know, that's Knoxville, Tennessee. Although they tried to, you know, it probably with the Phil Fulmer thing. And I mean, there's a great Yahoo Sports story about deconstructing how this was doomed from the start with this, but they're not going to do anything different. And the school has said that we're going to get it right this time. They promised to get it right this time. They've had 5 coaches in 12 years.
Wow.
Hey, Leland, my thing is that, don't you think that is interesting that the NFL owners been let off the hook? All these guys that are backing Trump, nobody had to denounce him or anything with that nonsense that went down a couple Wednesdays ago.
Yeah, you can't expect that from those guys, but I'm going to hang my hat on the fact that Goodell did something I didn't think he had in it. I really didn't. When he came out and stood with the players and said that he was wrong, I couldn't believe it. It was shocking because he didn't have to do it. First of all, he did not have to do it. And he did it, so obviously he had to come into Jesus with somebody in his family. And he did that. So as far as the NFL go, that's about the most we can expect from them. You know, it's not the NBA ownership. This is old guard, you know, hardcore, a lot of money. You know, they're all Republicans, and they all play golf together and do everything together forever. But they got just went crazy. You know, I don't know.
Tim, you about to say something?
No.
Yeah.
It's just interesting how Barack had to apologize for Reverend Wright, but these guys could sit there and say, "Well, hey, I don't know what Don is doing. You know, that's not us." So it's just amazing the culpability that's always on us. You better disassociate yourself from that guy, or you could forget your chances. So that's really
the Senate race with Reverend Warnock. Sometimes had Jeremiah right up in there and quoted him, and they tried to use that as some way to get stuff.
Exactly.
They said if you elect Warnock or Ossoff, you're going to have anarchy in the Capitol. Yeah. And you know what? They both were elected, and we did have anarchy.
Right.
But it wasn't the people they were looking for to do this nonsense.
Right. But you know what? And we're going to close it down. We're going to go a little bit over, but we're going to close it down shortly. You know, I see these, you know, the NFL on the back of the helmets, they have
Breonna Taylor's name.
And you see these signs and everything. But Leland, I think our country is so divided now that those words mean absolutely nothing to the people who really need to hear.
No, you're exactly right. Unfortunately, a guy came in with a confluence of the internet elevating like it never had, and free speech, and he used it all negatively. We had never seen it, so we don't know how to police it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. How do you create what's a lie and what's the truth? And how do you stop it? But nobody has went overboard like this guy. So, but the NFL, they got to keep doing what they're doing. I don't care how small the gestures are. Their ownership is different than the NBA, and we can't ever expect them to totally get to that level. The same thing with Tiger. My boys just beat him to death, Well, I saw him with Charlie Sifford, and I saw him hugging him. I saw there was something genuine in there, but he grew up in a white world, man. He is what he is. But, the NFL guys, I wouldn't beat them up too bad, and because they in and out, right? 3 or 4 years, and you're gone. And you get cut. Your contracts ain't guaranteed. I can't hold too much animosity about those guys when they don't push the gavel as much as some of the NBA players have.
Well, that's why it's important that somebody like a Patrick Mahomes and those top tier guys are at least saying something, because they're not going to get pushed out the league.
Right. Exactly.
Mike, that's why it was beautiful when they did that video. Remember that video when they all first had about Floyd? And Mahomes was one of the leaders of it, so I was really happy about that. But
let's not forget his father was a baseball player, Pat Mahomes.
Yeah,
and you have to call him Patrick and his father Pat, according to his mother.
Well, guys, man, I appreciate number 29 coming up, brother. That's all right, man.
Well, I don't know, man. My wife, she's a healthcare worker and a master's nurse. She owned me now. All of a sudden,
you're gonna be in a plastic bubble, a plastic sheet going up for that whole week.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Where is this shit?
Quarantining when you come to Tampa.
It's in Tampa.
So it will be a perfect Brady story, and I don't want that.
My family live there. My nieces and nephews, my first cousin. But I might have to bow out on this one, Rick. I think so, man. I know it's heartbreaking. It'd be a great place to write a story, even for you to write in your paper if you allow me to. But I don't know. Maybe it's time to just hold on till we get control of this. Because after Benny passed away, we grew up together, me and Benny. Man, you guys may not know him, but there's a guy here named Benny Napoleon. He was the sheriff. He was a police chief. Yeah, he's one of our guys, man. He just died of COVID. 65 years old. It's
been a horrible thing, man.
Yeah. So
before you go, what would you consider your favorite Super Bowl to cover then? If you don't go to this one.
Oh my God. The first one, I think Rick reminded me, but I didn't look it up. It was either 92 or 93 when Michael Jackson went. I was like a kid in the candy store.
Rose Bowl.
Yeah. At the Rose Bowl. and Bo Jackson, Jesse Jackson, I was in the tunnel. They all walked up on me. I'm trying to be very well, I was always engaged as being a journalist, but first I had been out like that. But it's been so many. Prince's was memorable. Seeing Prince do his thing.
You didn't mention the game yet. You talking about the halftime show.
The game was my man. Our brother who passed away.
Steve McNair.
McNair.
Or in Atlanta.
He almost
Tennessee and St. Louis.
Oh man, he came so close, like a foot.
The thing I remember about I
the second black quarterback.
That was the black writers. We went out and protested the Georgia flag.
Because the first question from the press conference came from Led to Roselle, not Roselle, but Tagliabue about the Georgia flag.
Yeah. And I also remember that they had some snow. Y'all had snow or ice or something.
It was ice. That was the Ray Lewis thing.
Yeah, that
it was. Well, yeah. Atlanta was memorable that year because you couldn't go nowhere. It was an ice storm.
Yeah.
Not only that,
if we
the traffic
Detroit,
is insane.
Yeah, what about the 82 one? Were you writing at that time? The 82 Super Bowl was at the Silverdome?
No.
What about you, Ricky?
No. No, I'm
Oh,
old.
that's right. You were in Nashville. You were in Nashville.
I'm not that
Ricky,
old.
he think you an old fart now.
Ah. Come on, 82
Oh,
wasn't
Green
that?
Bay,
82.
Kansas City, Super Bowl one.
Yeah.
Mike knows I'm an old fart. He knows it because he's
Remember
known me
Lynn
since.
Dawson, Ricky? No.
Huh? Yeah, I was at that one.
Yeah, with a cigarette.
Look, me and Ricky
Ready,
say,
ready,
man,
ready to come on the field.
y'all talk about him, you talk about me.
We're gonna end this thing because we're just going downhill. I want to thank earlier guests, NBA legend Butch Beard and Dave Gilbert Jr. Speaking out about their disassociation with their alma mater at the University of Louisville. Great sports columnist Leland Stein checking in with us. But we're going to be back here next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. Thank everybody for tuning in. Good night. God bless. Peace.
Mike Tim, peace.
Tomorrow's a good day, y'all. 12:01.
Yep.
Good day tomorrow.
He'll be Florida man after that.